Science has long been a journey into the unknown, but not every path it opens should be followed. In research facilities kept far from public view, scientists have pursued crossbreeding experiments that blur the lines between life, control, and consequence. These aren't simply strange. They're profoundly unsettling, confronting us with uncomfortable truths about how far humanity will reach in the pursuit of progress. In this video, we'll look at 15 crossbreeding experiments that go beyond disturbing, ones that make you question if some doors should have stayed closed. Let's begin this list with 15. Kunga. In ancient Mesopotamia, long before machines took over labor, people created the kunga. It wasn't born, it was built. A hybrid between a domestic donkey and a wild Syrian ass, brought into existence not by nature, but by intention. It couldn't reproduce. Everyone had to be forced. Captured wild males, paired with domesticated females, generation after generation. Its strength and stamina made it valuable, but only as a tool. When horses became easier to breed and train, the kunga was abandoned, discarded like worn-out equipment. No trace of mourning, just silence. What lingers isn't the creature itself, it's the mindset that built it. A belief that if nature didn't make something useful, we would. The kunga wasn't a creature made better, it was made obedient. That thinking didn't stay buried with history. It followed us into modern labs and cages, where lines still blur and usefulness outweighs life. This was never about survival, it was about control, and that never really went away. 14. Apollo the liger. He's enormous, muscular, impressive, in a way that feels wrong. Apollo is a liger, born from a male lion and a female tiger. Not a new species, just a hybrid created in confinement. These animals don't meet in the wild. Their worlds never touch. But inside cages, with humans watching, they're forced together. What comes out is something nature didn't sign off on. Apollo weighs over 700 pounds. His organs can't handle his growth. His joints ache under pressure. He struggles to move. Every part of him says too much. He exists because someone wanted to see what would happen, what it would look like. That's the point. Appearance over function. Life used to impress. He's not meant to survive long, only to stand out. And when the crowd's gone, the problems stay. There's no place for a liger outside a cage. Apollo is a reminder that crossing lines doesn't always lead forward. Sometimes, it leads to something that shouldn't exist at all. 13. Human-chimp hybrid. Some ideas should never leave the page. This was one of them. A blend of human and chimpanzee, known in theory as the human Z. It wasn't just imagined, it was attempted. In the 1920s, a Soviet biologist tried to merge the two through forced insemination. The effort failed, but not before crossing a line that should have stayed untouched. Genetically, the difference between chimpanzees is shockingly small, but that gap is everything. To erase it would be to create something that doesn't belong anywhere. Not fully human, not fully animal. A being with thoughts, maybe feelings, and no place to stand. What would we do with that? Study it? Hide it? Claim it? That's the danger, not just in its creation, but in our reaction. Curiosity without boundaries turns cruel. And this wasn't curiosity about medicine or healing, it was curiosity about control. This experiment didn't move science forward. It exposed how far some are willing to go, just to say they could. 12. Zonkey, Hippo. He wasn't engineered in a lab, he happened. A zebra escaped its enclosure and found a donkey named Giada. The result was Hippo, a creature with striped legs, a donkey's build, and eyes that drew attention. People called him rare, but rarity doesn't mean right. Zonkeys can't reproduce. Their bodies are stuck between species, a mismatch of DNA that doesn't know what to do next. Hippo didn't ask to exist. He was born into a body that can't continue. The novelty of his birth made headlines. Cameras came, but behind the fascination was something fragile. He wasn't part of a species. He was alone, not in pain, but not complete. Not built to thrive, just to exist. Nature didn't plan him. He's the result of captivity, of fences, of animals too close to choices they didn't make. He lives quietly now, safe, cared for. but his presence lingers like a soft warning. Just because something looks remarkable doesn't mean it should have been created. 11. Narluga, Nawa. Some hybrids aren't made in cages. They come from a world unraveling. The Narluga, part narwhal, part beluga, was discovered in Arctic waters, where melting ice had pushed two species into shared space. They weren't meant to meet, but with boundaries gone, they did. And the result doesn't belong to either side. It has the head of a beluga, the dark skin of a narwhal, and sometimes a tusk that never quite forms. It's not stronger or better, just different, a product of stress, not evolution. A scientist confirmed its existence through genetic testing, but what it really confirmed was something bigger. The planet is shifting fast, and animals are colliding into each other in ways they never did before. The Narluga wasn't born out of design. It was born out of environmental collapse. It didn't adapt, it appeared. And that appearance tells a deeper story, not about progress, but about pressure. It's not a sign of change. It's a symptom of something breaking. 10. Jackalope. It's sold like a joke, a rabbit with horns. Funny on a postcard, but the truth is uglier. Infected by a rare virus, some rabbits grow horn-like tumors on their heads, hardened, grotesque, and fatal. Instead of seeing disease, people saw an opportunity. They named it, sold it, turned tumors into trophies. And in doing so, they rewrote the story. The jackalopes weren't imagined from myth. They were born from discomfort no one wanted to face. The animal's suffering became a roadside attraction, stuffed, painted, framed. This wasn't nature creating something strange. It was humanity twisting illness into novelty because the truth was too ugly to sell. What makes the jackalope disturbing isn't just the image, it's the mindset behind it. We saw deformity and turned it into folklore, not to honor it, but to profit from it. Not every hybrid needs a lab. Sometimes all it takes is a sickness, a little denial, and a crowd willing to believe whatever makes them smile. 9. Jaglion. They should have never crossed paths. Jaguars stalk shadows in South America. Lions rule the African plains. Their bodies, instincts, and worlds aren't built to overlap. But inside a Canadian wildlife sanctuary, separation didn't matter. A male jaguar and a lioness mated. Jazara and Tsunami were born. Jaguar markings stretched across lion bodies. Fierce, strange, unnatural. They weren't a new species. They were the result of confinement, not evolution. Their behaviors didn't match. Their instincts clashed. They had no herd, no place in the wild. They were admired, photographed, and labeled exotic. But underneath, they lived with confused genetics and bodies built by force, not function. The jaglion isn't about beauty. It's about boundaries removed for curiosity. These cubs weren't born into nature. They were born into captivity's consequences. And once the cameras left, they remained behind. Evidence that when humans collapse distance and erase species lines, what's created doesn't belong to the jungle or the pride. It belongs only to the cage that made it. 8. Revival of the woolly mammoth. The mammoth had its ending. Ice covered its bones. Time buried its name. But now, inside labs lined with screens and ambition, scientists are bringing it back. Not as it was, but as a genetic copy built from fragments. Mammoth DNA pulled from frozen remains is being spliced into elephant embryos. The result won't be a mammoth, it'll be something new, something that looks familiar, but doesn't belong. Not to the past, not to the present. It won't remember the cold, it won't know the herds, it won't know silence. Its body will carry fur, fat, and memory, but no home. Some call it restoration, some say it's progress, but the creature itself won't know either. It'll open its eyes into a world that moved on. The ethics haven't kept up with the science. They rarely do. And when it walks for the first time, we won't be watching a return. We'll be watching an invention pretending to remember what it never lived. 7. Human-pig hybrid. They're grown behind locked doors. Not pigs, not people. Something in between. Human stem cells are injected into pig embryos to grow transplantable organs, hearts, livers, lungs. If it works, it saves lives. But if something else grows, what then? No one wants to admit how close these experiments have come to crossing the line. Not the genetic one, the moral one. What happens if human cells reach the brain? If behavior shifts? If awareness sparks? These pigs aren't born, they're built. And with each layer of tissue, each organ that forms, the boundary thins. We say they're livestock, that's easier. But once biology stops asking permission, definitions begin to fail. No one wants to face the real fear that we may already have created something that deserves more than silence. These hybrids don't live for themselves. They're engineered for others, for parts, for survival. But the moment one of them looks back with recognition, everything we've justified collapses under its own weight. 6. Hin Holfen. Kai Malu wasn't a miracle. She was a mistake made possible by walls. Her mother is a bottlenose dolphin. Her father, a false killer whale. They were never meant to meet in the open ocean, but inside a marine park tank, the lines vanished. And what came out was something with no category. She swam like a dolphin, but carried the weight and force of a whale. Her appearance confused both species. Her instincts didn't settle. She didn't belong to a pod. She didn't belong to a family. She belonged to the boundary that was erased. Researchers called her fascinating. Visitors called her rare. But Kai's life wasn't about curiosity. It was about consequences. Two worlds collided in a space too small to separate them, and the hybrid left behind had to figure out what to be. She wasn't built by nature. She was assembled by proximity, and once made, she couldn't be undone. Not every creature born in captivity is a tragedy, but this one came close. 5. Butterfly, the geep. She came out quiet, small, and strange, a wool-covered body with goat legs and a sheep's gaze. Her name was Butterfly. She wasn't bred for study or farm work. She was born by accident in England, a goat and sheep pairing that wasn't supposed to produce anything at all. Most don't survive, but she did. And as she stood there, moving like a question, people came to see her. They called her adorable, photographed her, shared her story like a charming glitch in nature's system. But she wasn't harmless. She was evidence. She existed where two species weren't meant to meet, a body made from mismatch. Her instincts didn't follow one side or the other. Her birth didn't open a door, it exposed a crack. And through that crack, something real slipped through, a reminder that nature's rules can fail quietly. Butterfly didn't ask to be a symbol. She just lived, half one thing, half another, and all the proof that lines can blur without warning. 4. Human-cow hybrid. This wasn't an ancient myth. It wasn't a metaphor. It started in a lab. Cells pulled from human skin, inserted into a cow embryo. Not to make a monster, not to grow a new being. It just to grow a heart, a lung, a liver. That's what they said. But once the cells take root, where do they go? What else do they build? The fear isn't horns or hooves. It's what happens if something inside that embryo begins to remember it came from a person. Just a flicker, just a spark. That's all it takes. It never made it to term, but it got close enough to ask questions nobody was ready to answer. The body wasn't the problem. It was the silence around it. Everyone said it was worth it. Life-saving, clean. But you can't grow pieces of a person inside something else without inviting questions you'll never be able to unask. Not everything human belongs in another animal. Some lines deserve to stay untouched. 3. Grizzly polar bear hybrid, Pisley. It wasn't bred. It wasn't planned. It was born because the ice collapsed. Polar bears moved south, chasing food. Grizzlies moved north, chasing space. And somewhere in the middle, a Pisley appeared. A pale coat stretched over bulk, a long snout on wide paws. It could hunt in forests or the snow. Not well, but just enough. Some called it evolution. Others called it a warning, because this animal wasn't better. It was trapped between instincts. One side stalked seals, the other chased elk. Neither fully worked. And the bear, it just kept moving. Not because it belonged, but because everything around it was disappearing. No natural path, no clear rhythm, just a body stitched together by urgency. The Pisley didn't prove adaptability, it proved a collapse. It's not a marvel of biology, it's a monument to what broke. An animal made by accident, living in spaces its parents never had to share. It shouldn't exist. But it does, and its presence makes it harder to pretend everything's fine. 2. Dodo revival. The dodo didn't vanish quietly. It was cornered, killed, and forgotten. And now, long after we ended it, we're trying to bring it back. Not out of care, out of capability. Scientists pulled fragments of DNA, rewrote missing parts using pigeon genes, and now claim they're close. But what comes back won't be the dodo. It'll be a version, a silhouette, a creature shaped by memory, not habitat. It'll walk on a stage that no longer exists. The trees have changed, the predators haven't. It'll be watched, measured, filmed, but not understood. The world it once belonged to isn't here. What we're building is something else. Something that can't fly, can't hide, can't thrive. Just something to say we could. It's not a revival, it's a rehearsal. And when it dies again, this time by design, we'll call it unfortunate, but not unexpected. The dodo's second extinction will be quieter, sanitized. And in that silence, we'll pretend bringing it back was noble. It wasn't. It was a performance. 1. Camel plus llama. They come from different hemispheres, one built for blistering deserts, the other raised on cold mountain trails. A camel and a llama weren't supposed to meet, but they did, because someone made them. The result was Rama, the first comma. He looked wrong. No hump, long legs, slender body, eyes that didn't settle. He was made to be useful, strong like a camel, small like a llama. Instead, he was nervous, temperamental, barren. His body held no purpose but possibility. He wasn't bred by nature. He was imagined, forced, and once born, no one knew what to do with him. He didn't start a revolution. He didn't change farming. He didn't lead to more. He was a one-off, the kind that quietly disappears when curiosity fades. Not strange enough to celebrate, not right enough to replicate. Rama stood as proof of a door we opened, just to see what might fall through. And when it did, we realized we weren't ready for what stepped out. We hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you later.